Welcome to the Bitcoin Sage Show. I'm your host Patrick, and today is December 15th. It is 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time, and let's get started with Bitcoin news today. Let's see what's happening in the exciting industry of cryptocurrencies. So let's get started with the U.S. prosecutors are rushing to cash in on drug ring seized Bitcoins. Now that I think people are realizing the value of Bitcoins, I think now they're starting to prioritize a little bit differently I guess the people they're going after, including the drug rings and people who are using Bitcoin in some way or another, will now be, I think, one of the highest targets for U.S. prosecutors and any kind of federal government employees in general. So watch out. All these people who started off using Bitcoin, 7-8 years ago, at the beginning days for drug purposes and other illegal purposes, are now under such scrutiny that they won't be using Bitcoin for any of these transactions. They'll be creating their own coins or using some of the other coins that are out there designed for security. Next is jilted traders are organizing a class action suit against Poloniex. We've been hearing a lot of complaints as well about Bittrex. They've been closing down and preventing people from withdrawing money until their proper AML and KYC is done correctly. So please watch out where you're putting your money. Watch out what exchanges you're using. And the number one thing I tell people when they are using any exchange is put in a support request. Pretend you lost your 2FA login information or something has happened that you need help with. Put that request in and see how long it takes for you to get a response. Now, I'm not saying flood the support requests with fake requests, but listen, when you need help and then you go to look for it at one of these exchanges and you realize it's a week or 2 weeks before you get a response back, and then another few weeks before you actually get resolved on an issue, then you quickly realize you're at the wrong exchange. So class action suits aside, they're useless in this industry, to be honest with you. But be aware of these things. Make sure you're looking at the reviews of the exchange you're on, and make sure you know what the support timing is for the exchange that you're using. Next is interesting news. Venezuelan Bitcoin miners must register with the government. So the government is obviously cracking down and seizing people who have a mining operation set up. And I'm pretty sure in Venezuela it's a lot easier just to look at the electrical consumption and be able to find people that way. But this was the main point of the article here. Oops. We want to know who they are. We want to know where they are. We want to know what equipment they're using. And if that isn't the epitome of the opposite of what cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin was designed to do, I don't know what is. But scary times if you live there. But I'm surprised they don't just flip this stuff forward and move forward with it as a part of their currencies. So regulators warn Bitcoin buyers, be ready to lose all your money. So in Europe, that's pretty much what the regulators are saying. A little bit different than the hands-off approach here in the North American markets, where you get traditional financial advisors saying, you know what, it's still a Ponzi scheme, stay away from it. Then you have, the futures and derivative market guys stepping in going, no, we're good. We can deal with this. We think it's legit enough. In Europe, it seems still very big that people are being warned, don't put your money in this. You're pretty much going to lose it all. It's 100% just risk gambling. So keep track of that. I still think that most people need to not allocate more than 1% of their portfolio to something that's high risk like that, or a portion of your 1% risk portfolio to go into Bitcoin. It's a great story. So a couple invested $800 that's now worth $17,000, and they're donating everything to a cancer hospital. So a lot of that stuff happening, and this is the great part about the industry because of the fact that so many people benefited from the rise in Bitcoin, unlike many IPOs. So in an example of like Snapchat or Facebook, there's only a small group of people with a lot of money that would have a chance to participate in that IPO and make a lot of money. Whereas in Bitcoin, we had a lot more participants on a small level that have now made money, and we're starting to see the movement of that money. And I think it's a lot better when you have a lot more people with money to share. The next one is the pineapplefund.org. So this was another charity that was started by an individual who had got into Bitcoin at the right time and decided to give it all away. So $86 million worth of Bitcoins to charities. And I agree. I think this is a great idea of also turning on big charities to accept Bitcoin as donations. And I think this might be a great way of driving folks to allow those charities to get set up with Bitcoin, hold Bitcoin, find appreciation in the price of Bitcoin for their charity as well. So I think this is a great way of turning that industry and bringing them on board for accepting Bitcoin and not just switching it to fiat, but actually holding it in Bitcoin and appreciating and benefiting from it. Next article, Seeking Alpha, talks about Bitcoin, the big short is coming. And this is awesome. I really have been struggling with this as well over the last few months as I've watched Bitcoin kind of just blow up from $5,000 to about $18,000 now. And it's really difficult for traditional equities folks and options traders and derivatives traders to understand why Bitcoin is not operating the same way that a traditional asset is operating, where it jumps up in price and then we hammer it down on the short side. And because they can't see that happening, everyone's still committed to the idea that, you know, Bitcoin's going to go back down to $100 in no time. And we're all going to laugh at those stupid Bitcoin folks. So they're still applying that mentality and those thought processes, when I think this is very different, and this is much more of an adoption curve, an adoption example, not a stock chart and not a traditional asset that spikes up and then gets corrected on the way down. And everyone has been seeing, as we look at the chart here, every one of those moments where it gets really scary and the dips start to happen, those are some of the best buying opportunities. I think that's one of the number one things I've learned in cryptocurrencies is look for those big, strong sell downs as the opportunities to buy. Don't get caught up in the choppiness of the day-to-day, but look for those big panic moments. So for me, it was Bitcoin at 15,200, Bitcoin at 14,183, and then when we dropped at 13,478 back on the 9th of December, those are the buying opportunities. People are not reacting and panicking. You know, that 13,500 level would have been, if this was a traditional asset, the beginning of the meltdown, and we would have seen some strong candles to the downside, and we would have quickly gone back down to support it, let's say 8,000. But as usual, these dips get bought strongly by volume from all around the world, especially in Asia, South Korea. The volume to pick up on these dips is incredible, and it's not, let's say, one group selling it. There's groups all around the world picking it up and thinking there's still much more room to go. And you can see by the way the chart is going that we're bouncing off these higher levels and pushing towards that 20,000 level. So I think these big short is coming movements are fun to watch, and it's nice to see some of the traditional market folks struggling with why this isn't acting the way everything else acts that they manipulate. Securing crypto. Again, I'm working on a video and some posts. Go to bitcoinsage.com. I'm adding some security articles there, some how-to, some softwares. We're going to do some videos. I think securing your crypto is one of the biggest questions I'm being asked, and one of the most important ones as well that we need to deal with on an ongoing basis. So cryptocurrency market capitalizations for today. Here's our top 10. Bitcoin Gold breaking into that top 10 there. Ripple having a fantastic day yesterday, just incredible run. Here's our breakdown by percentage, and then let's get started with some charts. So as you can see, here's the King Bitcoin, and you can see we're really bouncing off of this. We broke through 17,829, but we were heartily rejected around that 17,855, and we're headed back down. I'm hoping to see a bounce off of 17,370 and then a resumed push upward. But we've been consolidating a little bit over the last few hours, in the last day or two, as we moved up past 16,300, 16,400 and built that up as support at this point. So should see a little bit of a pullback today, a little bit of sideways movement, and then a pullback upwards. And at this point, we should be targeting 17,930 and then 18,147 before we start moving higher up to 19,000 and 20,000 at this point. So I think we're in for some exciting times. Let's jump to Ether. Ether was rejected off of 0.449, but is bouncing now. I still think that if you need to watch Bitcoin's advance, the altcoin market is almost 100% directly correlated at this point with the rise in Ether. And the rise in Bitcoin price. So as that price goes up, you want to pull back on some of your altcoins. So Ether at this point is bouncing nicely. I think it has a lot of room to grow, and I think a lot of people are excited and are starting to shift their purchasing power away from the expensive Bitcoin and are starting to move it into things like Ether and Litecoin. So let's jump to another one that I'm very interested in. I actually picked it up on this bounce here. Bitcoin Cash had a beautiful run up and has been just hammered again on the way down. I think there's some potential. IOTA is another one. It just getting destroyed, but is bouncing back. Let's see if it can break this resistance line here. Litecoin as well, ripping right back up. I think this is another bounce off of this 0.1438 level. And I think if this breaks these highs, watch out. We're going to 0.214. NEO is another one I'm very happy and excited with. I'm buying more of it at this levels. I think that this one's hugely underrated, and we're going to see some great moves from this in the next year. So this was my interested buy level, 0.0245. It came back down to that level, so I'm being extremely careful with a close stop loss, but at this point I'm still positive and excited about that. Ripple, man, I've been long this one on a couple of levels, and it continues to break down. So it was rejected after it hit 53.92. It's bouncing off of this resistance line here, and I think we're going to see this guy run a little bit more. I don't know. I think the price point on this, I'm not a big believer in the actual underlying technology behind it, but the price point just makes this so attractive for people that, like I said, I think we were chatting on Twitter yesterday, and between a few awesome traders, and we're all in the same boat of thinking that this could legitimately be a $50 or $100 stock by the end of 2018 for no other reason than I believe it's an on-ramp for all the traditional banks, Fortune 500 companies out there that can easily slap on the Ripple payment network and participate in blockchain or their version of it, and somehow everyone can add that name to their bottom of their website quickly, and everybody's happy and thinks that they're participating, and they'll see their stock prices go up. So I think you'll see big things from Ripple. I don't think it's going to last. It's one of those companies that I think in 2 to 5 years we may never hear about it again, or it'll be absorbed into the ether of the banking industry. Let's see, last couple things here before we finish up. Actually, yeah, let's end it there. All right, guys. So watch out for Bitcoin today. Let's see. Hopefully, we'll get a little bit of a pullback more back to the 17,371, and then a bounce up and through up to 18, 19, and 20,000. Have a great day trading, everybody. Let's make some money trading coins.